Hey guys, my name is Danny, and in this video we're going to be talking about the number system and how we can apply that to a worship platform setting. So let's jump in. By now, it is assumed that you already know how to build major scales and understand what notes belong to what key, how many sharps are in certain keys and how many flats are in certain keys. That's going to be really important when we start applying numbers to scale degrees. So there's 7 scale degrees in each major scale. So all we're doing is applying a number to each one of those scale degrees. For example, G is going to be 1, A is going to be 2, B will be 3, C will be 4, D is 5, E is 6, and F sharp is 7, and we're back to 1 on G. Most of the time when we're talking about numbers on a worship platform, we're usually talking about a specific chord. And we're only applying this to the major scale. So remember, when we talked about building chords, we talked about what our primary chords were. Our primary chords are going to be our 1 chord, our 4 chord, and our 5 chord. These are the 3 major chords in every single major key. So remember, the 1 chord will always be major, the 4 chord will always be major, and the 5 chord will always be major. So when somebody asks you to play the 2 chord in the key of G, you have to remember, it's not 1, 4, or 5, so it's going to be a minor chord. Because our minor chords are 2, 3, and 6. Our 7 chord is diminished, and we're going to talk about what we do with that one in a second. So remember, 1, 4, and 5 will always be major. They're your primary chords. When you're in a major key, you need to really know what 1, 4, and 5 is, because everything else is going to be based around those 3 chords. Your primary chords, which is 1, 4, and 5, establish tonality. They let you hear the key. If you only heard 1, 4, and 5, you would easily be able to sing a major scale of a song. If you only heard secondary chords, 2, 3, or 6, you wouldn't hear what key that you're in. For example, if I play in the key of G and I play primary chords, I played 1, 4, 5, back to the 1. You can hear by the tonality that I've placed, you can hear your tonal center. Tonal center is just the first degree of the scale, what the key is based around. You can hear bum, bum. That was very easy to hear. If I only played secondary chords, I'll try a different key for a second. If I only played secondary chords, I wouldn't be able to really hear that my tonal center was this, because I didn't establish any tonality. That's why understanding that your primary chords are really important to hear. But now if I were to take another key, like the key of B, and play primary chords, and mix that with secondary chords, you can hear your tonal center much easier. So primary chords are really important to understand. So I challenge you to take all 12 of your keys and memorize what 1, 4, and 5 is in each one of those keys. And then your secondary chords, which is 2, 3, and 6, and 7 diminished, but we'll talk about that in a second. Your secondary chords, they add color to the tonality so that it's not just major and boring the whole entire time. So it's important to know the sound of each one of these chords. So in the key of G, A minor is 2. It's kind of a soft sounding chord. 6 is E minor. It's kind of dark. And just an important side note as well, the 1 chord shares the same key signature as the 6 chord. So E minor, and if you were to play in a minor key, the key of E minor would have 1 sharp. So as you venture off into your own journey of learning about music theory and you want to dive deeper into minor scales, just know that the minor key is the 6th degree of its relative major. So if G is 1, E is going to be 6. So the key of E minor will have 1 sharp, F sharp. I love using the number system because it gives purpose to each chord that we use. By applying a number, it gives it function. G is just a G chord unless I give him purpose. So when we apply the numbers, we're able to hear things better. It helps us with our ear training when we're listening to MP3s on Planning Center or whatever platform you learn music from. Our ears will begin to hear the function of chords as opposed to just a G chord. Let's put this into some practice. If you were to play the 6th chord in the key of B, if somebody asked you to play, hey, what's the 6th in the key of B? The first thing that needs to go into your head is, okay, the key of B has 5 sharps. And those sharps are F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. So when I build my B major scale, these are my notes. B, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B. So if somebody asks you what the 6th chord is, the other thing that goes in my head is it's not a primary chord, that's a secondary chord, so it's going to be minor. And the 6th chord is minor, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I build my chord, I get a G sharp minor triad. In every single key, by default, the 6 will be minor. Let's try that again in another key. Let's take the key of F. The first thing that I do in my head is I go, okay, the key of F has 1 flat, B flat. So upon building my scale, I need to make sure that my B is flatted. So if I need the 6th chord, we know that it's minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a D minor. So let's do a couple more examples. Let's take the key of A. So remember, first think how many sharps or flats belong to the key of A. The key of A has 3 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So if I fill in the scale, I have 3 sharps. So let's go, okay, well, somebody play the 1 chord in the key of A. Simple. It's just A major, it's a primary chord. What if somebody asks you to play the 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C sharp, D, E. Remember, when you're counting up the scale, make sure you count the root as 1. So many people make the mistake by counting the 2nd degree as 1 because they think the movement is the number. It's not. The 1st degree is the root of the key. So A is 1. So make sure you count A, B, C sharp, D, E. And that'll be E major. We know that 5 is a primary chord, E major. Let's do another example. If somebody asks you to play 6, 4, and 1, let's take the key of D. D has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So the 6th chord in the key of D will be D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. So B minor, the 5 would be A, and the 1 will be D. Applying these numbers to scale degrees is going to be one of the most powerful and most useful tools in music theory that you can have. Understanding that major scales play a crucial part in your understanding of applying numbers to keys is so important. Don't disregard that. So remember, the 7th degree in a major key is always diminished when making a triad. Now we don't always use the diminished chord. So in the key of G, F sharp is 7. We not always use that diminished chord. We do sometimes, but what we try and do is we try and make that a major chord, especially in contemporary worship music. We steal the 7th degree from the 5th chord. The 5th chord in the key of G is going to be D. G, A, B, C, D. If I were to build a triad for D, the root would be D, the major third would be F sharp, and the 5th would be A. The F sharp in this chord happens to be the 7th degree of the entire key of G. So what we're doing is we're going to borrow this F sharp and make it a 5/7 chord, meaning the F sharp is going to be played in the bass, or the lowest note that being played in the voicing, and it becomes a D over F sharp, which eliminates our F sharp diminished and we're just making it a primary chord and putting the 7th degree of the scale in the root. Or you can look at it as the major third of the 5 chord. And we do the same thing for the 3rd degree of the scale. If we don't want to make a minor sound, the 3rd degree of the scale is a very dark minor sound. So let's say I'm playing the 1 chord, and then I go to the 3 chord. It's a beautiful, dark, haunting sound we use a lot of times, but if we want to make that chord major, we need to borrow it from another chord. And in this case, we're going to be borrowing it from the 1 chord. If we build the 1 chord, which is G major, B is my major third. So by inverting the chord, I get a G over B, B being the lowest note that I play, and we call this 1 over 3. You'll hear this in a lot of progressions. Same thing with the 5 over 7. And so forth. So just remember, a basic understanding of the number system is applying a number to each scale degree within a major scale. Well, I hope this gives you a greater understanding on the number system. And just a couple reminders. Remember your major scales. Remember how many sharps and flats belong to each key. Remember your primary chords are the 3 major chords, 1, 4, and 5. The rest are minor. And practice. The number system is extremely helpful, especially when you're dealing with guitar players that are capoed and thinking in different keys, or horn players that are tuned to a different standard tuning. It's really important to talk function of chords as opposed to just letters. By giving numbers, you're giving function to the key, and they can take that function and apply it to the key that they're thinking in, if they're capoed or they're playing in a different key for tuning it purposes. I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you a better understanding of how to apply the number system. Thanks for watching.